Hi, my name's Elissa, and I am sharing a human design activity that you can do on your own that is around which channels you have. So I am not a human design expert. If you're looking for human design expert videos, you should go check out some consultants that do readings and things like that. I am really more helpful in terms of helping people figure out their next steps in their own self-discovery journeys based on some things that I've tried in my own life. And so I'm sharing activities that I am actively doing right now as part of my own self-discovery journey as I come up with them and decide that they are worth sharing with somebody else. So check out more of my videos about my rivers and roads activities, and much, much more. This is about a pretty quick little exercise about what types of categories your channels fall under, because those categories are going to help define whether or not those channels would be best used for your own energies, so using them inwardly on your own self, or if they would be better used within your tribe, your family members, your friends, your loved ones, people you work with, people you interact with on a regular basis are your tribe, or would it be better used on the collective? Deciding whether or not we are doing all right overall as a society, and how we can work with that energy. And then I'm sure there are a ton of different ways to look at this as well, but these are ways that just really spoke to me when I was reading through and learning about my channels and deciding what that meant for me. Um, and so, and part of the reason why it meant so much for me, I think, is because I felt like I was missing something by not having an individual channel. I have a lot of channels, and a lot of people don't have a lot of channels. And it's not good or bad to have a lot of channels. It just means that you have more definition in your life and you're more set in your doing things a certain way in more aspects of your life. If you have a lot of definition in your chart, which would result in a lot of channels. And so I have always felt like an odd duck in a lot of different ways. And in most ways, I felt like a really odd duck. And so looking at these channels, not just to say, oh, yeah, I have the channel of judgment, and, that means that I'm uniquely able to do X, Y, or Z, but to say that I have the channel of judgment and I should not be using it against myself. And when I do, it looks like this in my life. Because I don't have any channels that I'm supposed to be using on myself. And I've tried to use all of my channels on myself and other people because that's how other people have taught me how to share my gifts. That's how they share their gifts. I've been uniquely surrounded by people, I think, who have had a lot of definition in their chart and had a lot of individual defined channels, which means that they are supposed to be selfish in looking inward and using their gifts inwardly. And I say selfish in a neutral way. We judge that as a bad word, but doing things for ourselves should not be bad. This is why we have problems with self-care. And so this activity helped me have an overall aha about myself in terms of I'm not uniquely talented to grow myself. And that's actually really empowering because I've been trying to fix myself my whole life and there's nothing to fix. I just haven't been using my gifts in the way that they could be used in a way that they want to be used. It's it's not like they're people, but certain things like to be used a certain way. They like to fall a certain way. Like they like to move a certain way. And if you allow things to move the way they naturally are inclined to be moved or used, then you get to experience more fullness when you're using those. And so, I've got this one pager that I created that just says, it has a statement about me that says Elissa has 4 defined channels. And then I talk about how they fit into categories that I've read about recently. So here's what mine looks like. And basically, I've got 3 out of my 4 channels that are collective. So I'm supposed to share most of myself with humanity, the collective. My gifts, my talents should be seen by a lot of people in order to make the impact that they can. And I need to make sure that they are used intentionally well, otherwise they can make a really big bad impact for a lot of people. It's dangerous. It's that salesperson, that inspiration. Like, I could start my own church and raise all of the money and run away with it. Like, I have the talent to do that, but I won't. I choose not to. I have more than enough reasons to not need to live in fear and come from that selfish place of feeling like I have to take in order to survive. And I'm grateful because I haven't always been there, and I haven't always experienced pleasant things in the outside world as a result of that. I also looked at the channels in terms of if they're manifesting channels or projector channels or generator channels or manifesting generator channels. There are different energies, different traits that can be assigned channels that tell you more about them and how they like to be naturally used. And so I can't remember what all the other ones are, because again, all 4 of my channels are considered projected channels, which means I'm not supposed to initiate the use of those channels. I'm not supposed to show up and say, I'm really good at judging people. Let me judge you. You know how bad that sounds? Did you feel how bad that rubbed you? And so I clearly I'm not, even though I have that, I need to jump in front of the room and tell them how great I am in order for me to feel like I'm going to get the results that I want. That's the exact opposite of what I should be doing. I should be hanging back in those wings with those projectors waiting for an invitation, at least when it comes to sharing my greatest gifts and talents. I still have to do things in my normal life to like eat and like get paid and have relationships with people, and like my manifesterness is real, but I have to be a tame manifester if I want to have the right type of impact. And tamed by my own definitions and nobody else's. Tribal. I have 1 of 4 channels that I can share with my network. So 3 of the 4 were collective, 1 of them is tribal, and I didn't have any individual. And then the other thing I looked at is how many of my channels are connected to which centers. So do I have a lot of channels that connect to a particular center in my chart? Or are they like really well distributed throughout the centers of my chart? And I noticed that something that continues to be predominant in my human design chart is how much definition I have in my spleen. So I have a very defined intuition and survival instinct. And that speaks true to me. I wouldn't be alive right now if I didn't. I have made so many poor choices with health and just neglecting health and things over the years because my instincts for when it actually matters and you actually have to do something to like not die always come through for me. So I don't plan as well health-wise as I should have. And I also have a really strong intuition when I'm listening to myself. And I have not given all of my power away to other people and entities. So that makes sense. That's another reason why human design was like, yeah, I could see that is represented in my life. So of my 4 channels, 3 of them connect to my spleen. It's amazing I'm still alive with all the risks I've taken with intuition and instincts throughout my life. People look at me like they just are in awe that I'm still here. And they should be. I am too on a regular basis. So the spleen definitely has a big theme in my chart. And that's what I'm taking away from the fact that 3 of my channels connect to my spleen. 2 of my 4 channels connect to my throat. And so that's my manifesting. You only have to have 1 channel connected to your throat and not have a defined sacral in order to be considered a manifester. But I actually have 2 defined channels connecting to my throat. So even if I didn't have one, I would have the other and I would still be considered a manifester. And with my history of being a loudmouth, big mouth woman, I can't deny that one. Yep. And then of the other centers that connect to my defined channels, there are 3 other centers, but each one of them only has 1 channel connecting to them. And so that's my root, my heart or will, and the ajna. So 3 of my 4 channels connect to my spleen, 2 of my 4 channels connect to my throat, 1 to my root, 1 to my heart, 1 to my ajna. And then the other way to look at it is which ones are conscious and which ones are unconscious. The ones that I'm conscious of are based on my birth date in human design. Those are things that I should be aware of by a certain point in your life, based on having enough experience of yourself and having other people experience you. You should kind of be able to connect with that if it's the correct chart and be like, yeah, that's definitely me. And then on the unconscious, to look at that chart, which you're not going to connect with that. So don't try to be like, oh yeah, I definitely associate with my unconscious, because in all likelihood, you are going to deny hardcore that is you. But if we ask your parents, they're going to be like, yes, that's definitely them. And so you have to ask other people in your world, say, do I do this? Do you think this about me? Is this how I present to the world? And it's not a good or bad thing. It's about truth. What's real? How do you actually present to the world? And how do you think you present to the world? And playing in those playgrounds. Okay, so I think that as you can see, I didn't write very much on this, but I just did some research and I looked at the channels that I have in my chart, and I looked at whether or not they're considered individual, tribal, or collective. I looked at whether or not they're considered projected, manifestor, manifesting channel, manifesting generator channel, I almost said a reflector channel. I try to include you guys. And then whether or not it's conscious or unconscious. And then lastly, whether or not it is which centers they're associated with. Do you have more channels associated with other centers versus some centers versus others? And then I will leave a note. I've probably lost all the reflectors by now, but if you're still in there, you can also do this activity. Just because you don't have defined channels, you do still have gates. And for all of the channels that you don't have, you get to experience those every month. So you can pick a group of channels and that are resonating a lot with where you're at in life right now, or your week, or you pick the scene, and then look them up, decide, find out whether or not they're projected, or if it's a generator channel, or if, and that might resonate with why you're feeling more generatory that week, or, you can start to see how you can think about that differently, regardless of the definition or the lack of definition in your chart, because we can all experience all parts of the chart. And as much as we can learn about these channels, you can also think about how other people present to you, and see if you can figure out which channel that is, and see if you can help them express themselves in their higher selves, so that you get to experience them in their higher selves, just through the compliments that you make to them about when they are in their higher self, to positively reinforce continuing to get that positive aspect of that channel from them. So I will leave you with that. I've got a few more that I'm going to do here coming next, so go check them all out.